Hi, Maya. Welcome to Leadership Nugget podcast. I'm so thrilled to have you in my podcast, and I'm looking forward to kind of learn and kind of be a better self with your knowledge and wisdom. So, just let me introduce you to my audience. You are a somatic leadership coach. You are also a cultural catalyst. You have founded Move with Maya. It's a consultancy that you run for the last couple of years, and you also have been part of the Big Four, and you also have experienced the corporate life and what it takes as well. So, in this podcast, I would really kind of pick your brains a little bit to understand what made you, quit the corporate game and jump into the entrepreneurship, because you have an illustrious career. You were a global women leader in 2024. So, kind of pivoting from there into entrepreneurship must be quite a bit of, mental mind shift change. So, I'm hoping to kind of have a great discussion with you and officially welcome to Leadership Nugget, Maya. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Chitrita, for having me. I'm so excited to see how this conversation unfolds and what we would probably end up talking about.
Fantastic. So let me get you started. Hope you're comfortable and we can just kickstart our podcast. As I mentioned in your intro, and it was an illustrious introduction, and I'm so happy to have you, right? So you had a successful corporate career, and at what part of your identity did you have to actually unlearn to truly become an entrepreneurship?
It's an interesting question that you sort of, begin with, Chitrita. I'm kind of going back to I'm actually going back to, I would say, my corporate life, and also kind of picturing myself sitting in one of those high stake meetings, many of which rooms we probably have sat umpteen number of times, and looking back at my pedagogy of coming in from an engineering background and a B school graduate, and thereafter working for, some of the big four consultancy and tech firms. And what I was seeing around in many of those rooms is that leadership was, and probably still is, considered to be something that is highly cognitive, as a function. And many of the times I realized that while the conversations were around moving around strategy, objectives, goals, etc., but I also sensed that there was this sort of cold energy in the room. For me, that was something wherein I realized that for many of us, leadership almost started from the neck up, which was just in the head, in the head space. And we probably have learned to over index on our strategy bit, on our logic, data, and logical reasoning bit. And we were never taught about self awareness, about emotional regulation, empathy, and emotional intelligence. And I think that part of the identity shifted for me when I sort of pivoted from a pure play corporate into an entrepreneurial journey. And pretty much for me, I'm a first generation entrepreneur, and something that did not come with a sort of a playbook for success, but pretty much learning sort of, by doing it. So, yeah.
Fantastic. And I think that is what I want my audience to learn, or rather take away from, going through this podcast is you might have a dream to start an entrepreneurship journey for yourself. What I should be thinking in a different way if I am kind of doing a 9 to 5 at the moment, what I should be thinking, or how should my mindset change so that I am at a position where I am at a point in my life where I am able to take that leap forward, right? It's all about confidence. It's all about having that faith in yourself, right?
Right.
And I hear that when you're talking about your Big Four journey and then stepping away from there, it was probably all about the courage to take that chance on yourself, right? And
It
that
was.
kind of leads me into the next question is basically people always think that entrepreneurship is about, say, skills or ideas. Oh, yeah, I have a great idea and that might be something that I can bank upon to create a business. But for you, what was the single biggest mindset shift that you had to make that really helped you change your trajectory?
So, all through my, I would say, corporate journey, I thought that growth comes from control and from really having a clear plan, making the right decisions, and kind of minimizing risk. But sooner or later, through my own corporate or my, entrepreneurial journey, I learned, and pretty much the hard way around, how to let go of control and the ability to hold uncertainty. I think the ability to hold uncertainty and sort of navigate through that is one of the biggest, I would say, mindset shifts that sort of happened to me. And pretty much through that, I also learned that, the ability to navigate through uncertainty, while we may think that it's a lot to do about your mental game, about your mental capacity, but it is also very much physiological. How do you sort of hold your emotions in the time of of chaos, in the time of uncertainty. And you would imagine, for somebody who has left the fatty paycheck to starting off from almost scratch, being a first time entrepreneur and a first generation entrepreneur, it wasn't the natural and the most easiest decision, to the extent where I said goodbye to the kind of, reading data from Excel sheet and saying hello to reading data from emotions and really understanding how our mind, body, and emotions function, and primarily what we call somatic intelligence.
Fantastic. And you spoke about uncertainty. I think that is probably something that an entrepreneur have to deal with or have to live with constantly, because the decision is theirs. The outcome are also kind of theirs to kind of own and move with. In that context, I would like to, kind of pick your brain a little bit, because you have sat in corporate boardrooms, you have then moved into an area where you are trying to create an environment for corporates where they can thrive and be a better version of themselves. So can you tell a situation or one of your previous experiences where your approach or how you wanted to perceive or guide somebody didn't quite land with the leadership team or your customers that you were working with? What went wrong? And I'm kind of dealing a little bit in the hard areas. What went wrong and what did you learn about the resistance at the top?
Resistance at the top. So I remember working with this one senior leadership group where I sort of initially tried to introduce them to a more experiential approach early on, which is also pretty much my style. But then I sensed there was clear resistance in the room. And while initially I interpreted that as disengagement, but later on I understood that the resistance at the top is rarely about work. It's about safety. And so I realized that leaders at the top are almost constantly evaluated for having all the answers, and they are not comfortable in being vulnerable.
Mhm.
And I think that was something I had probably missed out in the beginning as an early, I would say, entry point, and which is where I kind of sort of shaped, or I would say changed my approach a bit, to know that when we see resistance at the top, it's not necessarily a barrier, but it's actually a data, because it tells us something about the nervous systems that the room is ready for. And as they say, energy never lies. So if you can read the energy in the room, and if you can read the nervous system in the room, you know where they are headed for. And I think ultimately that is where I realized that leaders don't resist change, but they resist feeling unsafe while changing. So through my experience of working through some of the Fortune 500 and Fortune 100, companies over the past almost 2 decades now, I have seen that some of the smartest people in the room are not necessarily always the most effective leaders, right? So leadership is, again, like I said, it's not just cognitive, it is physiological, and it is how you show up and how others feel in your presence. So I think that's something I had to learn myself as well.
So when you're doing this for yourself, how far would you push the envelope for the stakeholders that you work with? It's not your company, but you are coming there more as an outside in perspective.
Absolutely.
How much of a balance game do you think you need to kind of be aware of? Because you are working with very senior folks in an organization, right? So what do you feel on maybe, or you feel actually dealt with? You can give me some examples as well.
Sure. Yeah, no, it's a very interesting question, Chitrita. I'm glad you asked, to what extent do you and can you probably push the envelope in these kind of situations? Again, something that I've learned through my work is how do we create the sense of safety, the sense of psychological safety in these kind of environments. Like I said, leaders at the helm, they also crave for safety. And there is this a little bit of resistance to be seen as vulnerable, to be seen as somebody who probably doesn't have all the answers. But at the end of the day, we are all humans. And I think, again, going back to the fact that it is okay to not have all the answers at all the time. So really kind of creating that sense of psychological safety, that sense of connection and belongingness, and establishing the trust. So large part of my work sort of, the foundational stones of my work sort of starts with building the sense of safety, trust, connection, belongingness. And then we sort of work with all these elements to build resilience. That's pretty much the sort of, I would say the levers of my work in some ways.
Okay, that's good. But Maya, when you started this, and then now you have almost 2 decades of experience in managing a room, gauging their energy and kind of moving the energy in a direction that you feel going to be productive for the organization.
Absolutely.
Kind of rewind back to yourself when you didn't have a playbook, you were trying to do this as a first time entrepreneur. Your advice will be quite precious to people who are kind of looking at coaching overall and in this field trying to make their own mark. So if you have any one or two pearls of wisdom to share for people who are actually looking at coaching to be one of their areas of interest and want to pursue an entrepreneurship journey in that, what would that be?
Absolutely. So, Chitrita, my journey, like I mentioned, started off from the tech world, primarily having worked in the tech space and largely coming in from the technological background. So, therefore, in the world of technology and processes and project management, the three key things that we look at are PPT, which is people, process, and technology, right? So, I was working with organizations where we were handling the technology and the process part. And I also realized that if I want to sort of, move ahead, I really need to understand the people part. And I think from the time when I started kind of, pivoting towards understanding more on the people management and the leadership aspect of things, that's also when my own passion and love for the world of coaching sort of started evolving. So for anybody that wants to sort of, pivot into the world of coaching and wants to be a coach per se, first and foremost is, are you somebody that loves working with people? Are you somebody that has an innate capacity to hold emotions? Because at the end of the day, when you are coaching with somebody, they are going to share about their self a lot more during the sessions, and you will have to be able to probe them with the right questions, to be able to hear their answers, and also to be able to handhold them to find their own desired outcome. So it's again something wherein you need to be somebody who is good with people, love to work with people. That's number one. And secondly, to have the ability to hold space. Again, it comes back to your empathy, emotional intelligence, and being able to create a sense of safety and trust.
So somebody who has these sort of core values in them and also kind of looking at coaching as one of their areas of interest potentially can harness that through doing some certification or going into this line. Any other advice that you might want to give them?
Yes, I would say, while certification is one way of doing it, but you actually start coaching people. So in one of my previous roles in my corporate life, I was working as an internal coach for almost close to 5+ years. And that's also where I picked up some of these skills, because as they say, you can sharpen your axe only by practicing it, right? You cannot learn swimming by watching YouTube videos. You actually have to go out there into the swimming pool and take a dip. So it's almost like, doing a coaching certification might be helpful, but actually coaching people is what you need to do.
Fantastic. I think the real, when the rubber meets the road, that's when you realize whether you want to make this your actual entrepreneurial journey or not. Fantastic.
Because many times we think that this might, it's like that shiny object on the outside that may look very interesting and intriguing. But then for anybody that wants to do career transition, this is something I always go back and say is, go out there, try and experiment. Try everything out and experiment with. If you have 3-4 different paths that you're not sure which one is the right one, take some time. Go out, experiment, give yourself that significant amount of time to experiment, because sooner or later you will know that, is this something that I can run for the next 40, 50, 60 years of my life? If not, you will also have that answer. But really trying and experimenting is going to help you find that answer.
Superb. Great. Now, I think let's talk about AI because,
today every conversation centers around AI, and I'm not surprised.
Every conversation, every aspect of leadership, because as a leader, either you are implementing it or you're thinking to implement in an organization, right? That's the hard reality right now. AI is there in every shape and part of our lives. Even as a leader, the journey that somebody is taking right now would be very different if the person doesn't accept AI as a reality in their day-to-day lives, right? Now, you come in from an external perspective. You give that literally that, mirror in front of them. So in that aspect, where you feel AI is reshaping organization, you must be hearing that, seeing that in different capacity as you move from one organization to the other. What human capabilities, and that's really critical now, they are not going to be completely replaced by machine, and I strongly believe that, right? So what human capabilities do you believe will be the key differentiator for a great leader now, since AI is going to be part of almost every organization's ways of working?
So, like you started off with the fact that today almost all organizations or all leaders are either pretty much working with AI or they sort of becoming obsolete in some time or the other. And I think it's almost like a well-established fact by now is that AI is pretty much going to take over a lot of the cognitive tasks. And therefore, what I see is the rise of human-centric leadership, which basically, makes us come back to some of the critical components of human skills, which are, aspects like empathy, trust, belongingness, resilience, connection. As far as I can see, and if I would say that, if I can have a crystal ball and I can sort of gaze into the crystal ball, as far as I can see, I think there is going to be huge rise in the aspect of somatic leadership, which exactly addresses these aspects, which addresses the disconnect between our well-being intent and the everyday leadership behaviors. And these human skills will rise. And that's not just something that I am saying, but that's also something which the World Economic Forum 2030 skills report also speaks about. So I think the differentiator is not going to be intelligence, but it is going to be in the regulation, in the presence and the emotional range that, we are able to sort of exhibit. Because in a world where everything is automated, or very soon it will, how you feel around people is going to be your leadership edge, or rather how people feel around you is going to be your leadership edge.
Okay, so I think the key word here is the intent also. As a leader, you need to have the intention now to pivot yourself towards something which we haven't experienced as well. How do you lead in an organization where AI is a constant, I would say horizontal, it's a constant ways of working. So if I
Right.
ask you, what do you think leading with intent means in today's context?
Honestly, I would say in my dictionary, leading with intent is not just about goals or achieving goals and targets, but it's more about the awareness. Awareness is again, of the state of mind and presence and the energy that I am bringing in as a leader and the experiences that I am creating for others around me. My emotional state and emotional well-being is also in many ways kind of, reflected or is going to be reflected through the people around me. So that's something I need to be mindful of. And because like I said, intent is something which may be invisible, but impact is something which is felt. So if you can create that sort of awareness, wherein being aware of your own emotional state and the emotional environment you're creating for others, you are not just showing up as a leader, but you are also enabling others to see the presence and the experience that they feel in your presence.
So I think the intent now becomes more important because you are leading a human emotion where everybody is feeling a little vulnerable with AI coming in. And I think that as
Yes.
a leader, you need to shape that, you need to take that energy and channelize in a direction which is good for the organization. I'm coming to the very last segment and I'm quite of, excited to ask you this question from the beginning. So as one of my closing questions now is, if everything that you teach, you go out there, you meet fantastic set of people, you kind of helping them again be a better version of themselves. If everything you teach had to be reduced to one belief leaders must hold in the next maybe couple of years, what would it be and why?
I would like to leave with the thought that leadership is an embodied experience. A leadership is not just who you are or what you do. It's about what people experience in your presence. And if leaders understand that their internal state of being shapes everyday interactions with their team, that is what truly transforms culture at the work.
Fantastic. I think this is a great place where we can, leave this conversation. And I'm so glad that, there are some very key elements that you brought up. And I'm so glad that I could do that through this podcast. I love the fact that you talked about somebody who is thinking of being a coach and try that as an entrepreneur. It's actually going and doing something about it, or at least trying it out, so that even if you feel very strongly, you have the attributes to become one. It's just, you learn by doing. So that was fantastic. I would encourage whoever is listening and you kind of thinking about starting your entrepreneurial journey in the coaching line. It's a fantastic take from Maya to experience that for yourself, and the intent and the authenticity that you mentioned are going to be very, very key in this AI dominated era. How you work with human beings who are already at a vulnerable stage, how do you accelerate growth for your organization and also work through human beings as well, because we are not going to get replaced so soon. I love the fact that I'm leaving my audience with very good pearls of wisdom. So thank you, Maya, from the bottom of my heart to come on my podcast. Any last comment that you have for the audience?
Last comments would be, go out there and try and experiment. If you are somebody who is, sitting on the fence, perhaps sort of toying around with this idea of maybe starting out something on your own or pursuing something that you really love, but not very sure how to get started off. Like I mentioned, during our conversation, that you do not have to see the end of the road. It's just that one step, the next step that matters. So go ahead and take that step number one. Anything that is greater than zero is progress.
Thank you so much. It was fantastic having you, Maya. I look forward to having more sessions with you this year. So, all the best for your journey ahead.
Thank you so much, Chitrita, for having me.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.